Hello and welcome to the 6 o'clock club. We are here. I'm Andy from Twisted Narrative, and this is introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I am Kristian, regular here on the 6 o'clock club on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. A long-time friend of Andy.
Hello to everybody in chat as well. I really appreciate you hanging out. This, apart from the little test we did earlier today, is our very first live stream on YouTube, and Jocelyn has found us. Elsa
And
has found
Elsa.
us. This is
Hello, Jocelyn and
amazing.
Elsa.
I love it when a plan comes together. Thank you very much for joining us. This is, I mean, it's fantastic. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes, what the metrics go like, and everything else. Working on there. Christian's got a little name tag now. Christian, look at that. I've got mine here.
Got a name tag.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all
look at that.
very good.
I've actually got to plug my MacBook in. Otherwise, I might disappear halfway through this. How
Oh.
embarrassing! Technical issues this early on.
Please don't leave me. Not at the moment. With some of the comments I made last night, who knows what I'll say without some kind of policing. If you want to find out what comments I made last night, go and have a look.
Please go and find out. So we'll all be party to it.
I'm afraid I had a Red Bull and went a little bit yappy, which is you've got to do. So whilst we're waiting for people to join us in chat, we'll talk about games that we're running tonight, and we're gonna flash back to the game that we ran last Wednesday night. We should have covered
what I did this morning.
Sorry, say again.
I can't remember what I did this morning, let alone last week.
Well, it was Mork Borg that we ran on Wednesday. You actually played in it, and I'm glad I really impressed upon you the awesomeness of my GMing that you have quite simply forgotten it already. So, I mean, let's talk about that first, because there are people certainly on our Discord channel that have sort of gone, wow, how did it go? What was it like? Have I missed the video about it, the 6 o'clock club about it? And the answer was no. I was ill on Thursday. We didn't do a 6 o'clock club, therefore we didn't talk about it. So we'll flash back to last Wednesday night and Mork Borg, a great game. I really enjoyed it. We had 4 players. Kristian was one, Ian, Matt, and Josh were the other 3 individuals that sort of played it. And it's an old school Renaissance type game, kind of refreshed. It's very dark and very death metal, I think, is the simplest way of doing it.
Yes. Yeah, all the character classes, I say classes, they're not really classes, but all the classes have interesting names. Like I was a fanged deserter, but Andy asked us to generate 4 characters, so I also had a forlorn philosopher, which I didn't get to play, and a gutter-born scum, and an occult. What's this? Occult herb master, which is probably as dodgy as it sounds.
Absolutely. And hi to Ian, one of the players. Thanks for shouting up. And we're talking about the Mork Borg game that you played in fact. And your character description, Ian, was outstanding. I've done a lot of gaming with Ian over the last, I think, definitely year, maybe 2 years. And it's primarily been 5th Ed, some Call of Cthulhu. And I've never heard language come out of his mouth like that. It was absolutely awesome. Very good, very flavoursome, very in keeping with the game, and immediately kind of setting the tone for the game. So big thumbs up to you there. It was outstanding. Ian's left me some information on his thoughts about the game, which I'll cover in a minute. But your thoughts, Kristian, first.
So, I mean, the system, I loved the system. It was really easy to play. So you've only got 4 stats: strength, agility, presence, and toughness. And because we were using the automatic character generator, it made life a lot easier. I didn't have to think about anything. It gave me pretty much everything. And it gave me some kind of ideas about my character as well. Obviously, I decided to run it how I wanted. It was good. It was just roll a d20 and you either add or take away stuff, and you can then end up with negative numbers. My character seemed unable to die, but not really able to do much damage, so he was a bit of a rock. So I didn't really burn through characters. The world was grim. I believe you were running the standard setting,
Yeah.
Andy. So yeah, it was grim. It was dark. There were a lot of names mentioned without any kind of explanation as to who and what they are, and I kind of like that. I like that mystery of things. It reminds me of I think it was in David Tennant's Doctor Who episode when he talks about the Nightmare Child and the King of Nevermore, and not Nevermore, but the Could Have Been King. That's it. With his army of nightmares and things. And it makes me think of that sort of level of mystery where I don't know who the Shadow King is, and I don't know who the Lord of Flies are, but neither one sounds particularly pleasant, and they sound like the sorts of people that will hang around in an apocalypse. It was dark. It moved quick. It moved quickly because it kind of had to, because it was a one shot. I'd love to explore more about the world. I'd really, really love to delve deep into that world, and I can absolutely see how this system could be applied to other settings in the future. I think you know what I'm alluding to, Andy. But I'm going to drop a little hint at there.
Absolutely.
Something that might happen in the future.
There's all sorts of things that can be done with it, really. I don't think you can go much darker than they've gone. Not because you would want to, but I mean, fair enough.
I think you could go darker, but not in not in just going out swearing or unpleasantness. The only way I think it could go darker, and I think that the one thing I would probably like to see more of it, the system, and I think it's more because it was a one shot. It's difficult to do, but the more I would have liked to have seen was nihilism, because that's the sort of thing that I'm not going to say get a kick out of, but it's the reason why I love playing games like Dark Souls and things like that, because it's got this sense of nihilism about it, and it was there. It was an undercurrent of it with the end of the world things coming. And just so everyone knows, you choose a die, and you D2, D4, D6, D20, D100, whatever. And if you roll a 1 on that die, then one of the 7 seals of the apocalypse are broken. And when the 7th one is broken, that's it, chummer. It's all gone. One other thing I wanted to mention is that I liked is that as a player, you don't have armor. You roll for defense. So you roll for attack and you roll for defense, and if you fail, then you take damage. I mean, my Fang Deserter Belsum had 8 hit points, but I rolled another character that had 1 hit point. So 1 hit, he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really, really, really good. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing it. Oh, my pizza's here.
Excellent. Go grab your pizza. In the meantime, Ian, have you got any comments you'd like to make in chat? So, they're coming from you. I know you sent it to me on Discord, but I would much prefer to hear it from your own words, and I'll read it out.
We will be on a several-minute delay, though.
Yeah.
There is quite a delay.
That is why I'm going to tell you my opinion of it, and that way it will fill time for Ian's comments if he's still with us. From a GM's perspective, especially running it for the first time, I had no idea how it was going to go in terms of, is this encounter too deadly? Is it not too deadly? And it was deadly, not so much for you because you were lucky and had the armor and had the hit points. And that's not saying it kind of went easy on you. The given time, you would have gone down as well.
It, yeah.
I think with with the randomness of your character build, it saved much of the day. A combination between yourself and actually Ian's character that
We
had
were the
the
same
range.
class. Yeah,
Yeah,
we were the
yeah.
same class, the Fang Deserter.
That had that sort of ranged attack. I perhaps designed the creatures maybe a little too light. I wasn't fully expecting like a D6 worth of armor elevation, which is fine. I don't mind. I don't see it as a competitive sort of game in many ways. I'm pleased that you survived it for the final few days before basically the seventh misery happened and the world ended.
We chose
Basically.
a D2 as our
Yeah.
apocalypse die. So yeah, yeah. I mean, Ian has said he enjoyed the agency we were given.
Yeah.
And giving us the option of how quickly the end was going to come was a really good choice to give us, which is what I just said. An agency for both attack and defense is a great feature.
Yeah. I mean, the GM doesn't make any rolls. It makes the decisions on what the encounters are, but fundamentally, as has been covered, the player rolls for the defense of it, and that was an interesting mechanic as well. Absolutely. And for such a light game, we spent the first hour of the 3 hour session in the prison cell with you all sort of role playing more or less. There was quite a long time of some very nice sort of role playing that was going on. So whilst it's rules light, it is in no way stops role playing, and some very, very interesting sort of characters. I think what is interesting is in such a grim and dirty setting, it would be really easy for characters to turn on each other. But the very fact that it's so deadly that if you do that, it might not end up well for you. But if you do succeed on, killing another player, then something bigger and badder is just going to kill you a little down the line.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter about your character's motivations. It's very much you need to, even if you don't like each other, you need to stick together to survive.
Yeah, and I would actually say you gave us a really not to inflate your head too much, but you gave us a really compelling event. The event of the Shadow King. You're all in prison, and it goes back to what you were saying the other day about how do you start these things. The Shadow King is going to let you go, provided you do this thing for him. So we had that compelling event where we kind of all had to work together to do that, which was really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, Ian has again elaborated saying, I wasn't expecting us not to get through the characters we genned. I mean, I thought mine were going to die. I didn't realise mine was going to be such a hit, an attack sponge. But I know I got very lucky with a lot of rolls, which is not like me at all.
I also know to put something a little meatier in there next time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a balancing from your side as well, because you've not run it.
Exactly.
It's like you don't know whether or not with a basically, it's like with a level 1 party and you're a new GM. You don't know whether or not I can put a red dragon in front of them, or whether I can put a load of kobolds against them. It's a difficult one to do. And Ian's also elaborated saying rules light encourages role play, which I think we did have a nice balance of role play and actual following the plot. We had a few campfire moments. We had some funny moments where someone stole someone else's tent, and I thought that was quite fun. I really enjoyed that. And I did, because I have a sneaking suspicion that both Ian and myself had a lot of the same words on our character sheet. So when mine was supposed to be really cruel and not very nice, I decided to make my guy quite trying to get people together, and trying to use fear and be afraid of everything, and come on, then we all just get along, and come on, we can all just do this, and in a minute we'll be fine, and then we'll get away with this, and yeah, I did do the Bristolian voice as a Bristolian. That's how I sound when I'm drunk. So there we go.
Absolutely. And Ian's raised a very good point again. The Goblin Ambush at the start of Phandalin. Phandalin
Yes.
being the starter set for fifth edition.
Lost Minds of Phandelver, that one.
Phandelver, yeah.
It's not an adventure I've ever run, but it's
Uh,
probably one of the more famous ones. I've seen a lot of people run it.
I've run it a few times, and if you are of a GM who's going to play the goblins the way they kind of should be played with the skills that they've got, they've basically got an ability that they can shoot their arrows and then move and then hide. So fundamentally, at level 1, the goblins can just pepper the party full of arrows, never be targeted, and it's a sort of level 1 sort of wipe, really.
Yeah,
I don't know whether they've done that deliberately, or whether it was a design fault, with the choice of skills. They've kept it in, um, but it's a very interesting choice of an encounter that, as a GM, especially if you've got a group of new players, you have to manage, rather than just say, well, some goblins here. You do have to manage it. It's quite an interesting one. Well, thank you on all of your thoughts of Mork Borg. I mean, I love it. I want to do more of it. I'm not sure when or how, but it might be some of the actual plays we're planning on doing. Um, so, we'll move across to tonight's game very, very
Feng
rapidly.
Shui.
Feng Shui,
Feng
and I
Shui.
Feng Shui, and I've got it written down phonetically so I can say Feng Shui, Feng Shui, Feng Shui. I feel liberated having learned that. Spent most of the day doing that. Um, it's on tonight, 7 o'clock. I'm very, very excited. Two returning players, Kristian and Rachel, and Tasha, who's going to be joining us as well. Great role player. It's going to be it's going to be real fun. I mean, I'm excited for it.
Me too. Me too.
It's
It's so much fun, that system.
it's not going to follow on directly from where I left you off, because that was just like the cinematic end to it, really.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
assumes that you beat up all of those bad guys and went about your day. So we're going to be starting afresh. The name, I rarely revealed the names of the games that I run prior to it, because sometimes it gives clues away, sometimes it becomes totally irrelevant because the players go off in a different direction. You kind of go,
That
oh well.
sounds like a challenge now.
Yeah. But it's called Cat and Mouse, and I think it will become sort of blatantly why at some point during the game, hopefully.
Not if I've got anything to do with it.
Yeah. But I very much recommend anybody in chat, or anybody watching this on catch up, do a little Google search if you're unfamiliar with it, and check it out, because
It's
it
an
is.
easy system. It's a really easy system. You roll 2d6, one positive, one negative. The positive adds to your score, the negative takes away. But beyond that, character generation is as simple as I copied the archetype. I mean,
Yeah.
you get an archetype, and that's it. There is leveling up in the game, but really, it's this sheet, and you play from that sheet, and it's whatever you want to make of it. I mean, you get like so. My character, Bud Lightner, is good at martial arts and is good at guns, but that also means he knows a lot about guns and martial arts. He knows about classic cars, classic rock, beers, and sports. And these things might come up as something he needs to use. It might not, but it's a really the play style is really fluid. Combat is really fluid. You don't get bogged down in well, here's an action economy. Here's a thing I can do. Here's a thing I can't do. It's going to be fast. It's going to be cinematic. It's going going to be fun. It's going to be racy. I'm really looking forward to it. And we do still have, I believe there's one spot left, Andy.
There is. If someone wants to jump in last thing, I mean, it's easy enough to do. You just choose an archetype. You don't have to generate a character or anything. Even at this late date, it's easy to it's easy to accommodate people with it, really.
And I will be doing a terrible American accent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sorry, Jocelyn.
So more on that tomorrow. We'll let you go. I might be going, oh my God, it all went wrong. But that is important for you to know as well. Sometimes games do go wrong. I'm not expecting it to. I'm actually very, very excited for it. It's flavoursome. It's cinematic, larger than life, and it's got my level of humour in it, which is always good to do. Sort of that smile there. So that's the two games. Thank you for listening to us waffle on about them. More on Feng Shui tomorrow. Next on our list tonight, we should have covered this probably last week when it actually hit, but we didn't, partially because I was a little bit under the weather, and then I was busy running games, and partially because whilst it's really big news, it's happened and it's done, and everybody kind of knows the big news. And once the big news has happened, there's not much more to say about it, really. But I feel, I was chatting to Kristian last night off air. I've got absolutely no idea what he's going to say about it, but he says that he's got some thoughts on it. I've got some thoughts on it. I'm sure you all have some thoughts on it. So just like Ian and everybody else in chat has been putting their comments, please put your feelings there as well. It'd be interesting to see what the community sort of think about it. And that subject is quite obviously the open game license, the OGL. Wizards of the Coast have fundamentally basically done a full U-turn on it, and I'm not really here to sort of celebrate sort of victories or non-victories. It's great news currently for the community. The open gaming license is going to go on. Third-party publishers can carry on publishing, etc., etc. There's a lot of information out there about it if you are unaware. But we're going to just put our final thoughts to it until it all raises its head again at some point. Elsa says, well, I played my first game of Pathfinder. Fantastic. Ian is saying damage limitation. Absolutely. But Kristian, you said you had some thoughts on it. I'm intrigued.
Yes. So it's more, I mean, lots of people say this is a victory, and it is a victory for some people, for content creators that could continue to make content. But I'm cautious because I've been burned before, and I take it. I basically now take anything that Wizards say with a massive bag of salt, and I feel like this isn't it. My cynicism meter is going off the charts at the moment, and I don't think this is the end of it. I think, and because maybe it is, and I really hope it is. I'm not going for oh no, I really hope to be right. I don't want to be right, but I just feel like there's something else around the corner that's going to come and kick us all in the crotch regarding this. But I don't know what, and I'm not saying that this is what they're going to do. Obviously, for legal reasons, I have no insiders. I am just making up crap. But my suspicion, I've been thinking about this, and the way that I would be surprised if it went is if. Elsa's actually just said something, which is they might still screw up D&D Beyond because they want an exclusive VTT. And it's, what if they suddenly revoke the copyrighted content that they've already done for 5th edition? So you've got your VTTs where you've got all your books in there, and suddenly say, great, but That's it. We're pulling these. It's now D&D 1. So all that's available to you D&D 1. Because you can't copyright the rules, no, or anything in the OGL. You can't copyright that. But their copyright content, mind flayers, all this other stuff, they've got the rules for all the copyrighted stuff for the monsters and things. And I use Roll20. I've paid for any books in Roll20, so basically what my players have access to is stuff that's in the SRD, and I just worry that they're going to take away those 5th edition versions of, say, the Mind Flayer, the 5th edition versions of all those books, Xanathars and everything, and so they say no, you've got to use the D&D 1 edition. Sorry, 1 D&D, D&D 6th edition, whatever they're going to call it. You've now got to use this if you're using a virtual tabletop. And while other creators can still create content for OGL stuff, the official set of rules is now being moved on to 1 D&D, and you're not able to use any official Wizards stuff except for the 1 D&D stuff, which I don't think is covered by the OGL. I think 6th edition on is all. This is now our new proprietary stuff. It's only 5th edition and before that's covered by OGL and the SRD and stuff. I don't know if I've made much sense there, but
no, I mean,
to summarise, revoking, bad.
I'm in agreement with you, and some of the comments here. It was definitely damage limitation. First and foremost, I do want to say there are some incredibly talented and absolutely lovely people that work at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. It's a massive corporation. So my heart goes out to them that were totally unable to do anything about this as everything burnt around them. It's not so much about pointing fingers at individuals either, but there is. Hasbro have got this thing called their 2.0 blueprint, which is how they're going to keep their investors, their shareholders happy. And Hasbro, who own Wizards of the Coast, need Wizards of the Coast to perform. Their big brands are Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. Now, Magic the Gathering is kind of at their peak, their pinnacle, and there's little more I think they can really do to squeeze money out of that. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons, they've looked at it and gone, yes, we can do more with this. Now, I believe that the people at the top there are ill-informed, or rather aren't really aware of the Dungeons and Dragons product. And this is the problem. Again, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I have suspicions that there is some very high up members of Hasbro Wizards of the Coast that are very skilled at monetizing computer games, and this has been their job. This is what they've done incredibly well, and they've come across to Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast have hired them, and they've gone, right, make us money. And they've gone, well, we can do this. We've done it for Xbox, Microsoft, whatever, apps on phones, but they haven't understood the difference between tabletop role-playing games and computer games, or rather the community that play those games. The community that plays tabletop games, whether it's 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons right through to anything else, they play tabletop games. They can play Witcher, they can play Skyrim, they can play World of Warcraft, and quite possibly they also do. But they choose to play Dungeons and Dragons in the format that it is in, as opposed to go, well, I'm not playing that. I'd rather go and do WoW or whatever else. And they, I think, completely ignored the creators below them, or the staff below them have said, this is not going to really work. And they forged ahead. Sorry.
No. I think. Sorry, I was just going
and
to.
they forged ahead, and obviously the way to do this, the way to digitalize D&D, we've already spoken about it, is through their virtual tabletop.
Yeah.
And it's about control. They wanted to control not just the virtual tabletop, but everything around it. And I genuinely believe they thought initially they'll throw this out, that there might be a little bit of sort of rebellion, but they're only nerds and gamers and nothing will be heard of
Yeah.
it.
I think it's recurring revenue as well, because
Yeah, yeah,
that's a model that a lot of things have moved to over the years, like Photoshop.
yeah.
Adobe went from having, you paid a fee for Photoshop, now you pay recurring revenue. You pay for Adobe Creative Cloud,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of models follow that recurring revenue. I mean, there's let's go into the business world for a second. There's a really good book about business called Good to Great by a man called Jim Collins, and it's like a manual to capitalism and to how to run a business well. And actually, what it does is puts people first. It's a really good book. It is a genuinely good book.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the things in that is you need to find out what drives your economic engine, what thing is going to make your company go better. You've got to be good at one thing, and you've got to be able to derive money from that thing and have some kind of economic model.
Mm-hmm.
And selling books, it feels like selling an edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Well, you have to keep iterating over that edition. You have to keep bringing out new books. Now, from first to second to AD&D to third edition to fourth edition to fifth edition, they've iterated. But what they've come back to is third edition. And I don't expect one D&D to be too different from fifth edition.
Well, you say that. I've got my suspicions now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You think they're going to say roll the D? We're going to go from D20 to D100, and it's no longer going to be strength, dex, and intelligence. It's now going to be warble, forble, and flub.
Basically, I think that they underestimated the love, the community, and desire for fifth edition. They underestimated the empathy that people had for third-party publishers. They underestimated the ability of the energy of that community to band together. And it wasn't the community banding together that convinced Wizards of the Coast that they were going to do this. It wasn't the petitions. It wasn't even, I don't believe, the unsubscriptions from D&D Beyond. Don't get me wrong, they all helped. What it was is the amount of noise that was made to allow traditional media to start picking it up, and once it starts getting into traditional media, the shareholders start taking notice, and suddenly it's like, oh, don't worry about those. It's okay. They'll forget about it. They'll buy our stuff. They love our stuff. They'll buy it. It's when the shareholders going, well, I've just read the financial news here, and it doesn't sound good. What is all this? What is this? I've heard D&D. I don't understand what it is, but there's money there. You're supposed to be making it popular, and at the moment, all I'm hearing off the financial press is you've caused a real problem. And it was when it got to that point that they didn't kind of go, oh, we're going to finish the survey that we've taken up. It was like, no, yeah, okay, we'll stop it. It's just, it's literally, it was once the investors, the shareholders started taking notice, because the shareholders don't care. The shareholders don't care about Hasbro. They don't care about Wizards of the Coast. No. They will happily take their money out of there and stick it in a higher return. They have no love of whatever we love, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. They like money. That's why they invest their money.
Well, the last two articles, just looking at the Financial Times website, the last two articles on if you go to Hasbro Inc. as a header, as a tag, the last two articles are Dungeons and Dragons and Fear and Loathing, about the situation, the OGL situation, and the previous one was called Magic: The Slathering. And it says Bank of America says Hasbro is killing its golden goose.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds wrong. It was the community, it was everybody banding together and making that noise that caused the press to take notice, that then caused the shareholders to take notice. Without all of that love, that unity, that rebellion, if you want to call it that, it wouldn't have happened. But it was when the shareholders started hearing the noise that was being made that caused them to do this U-turn immediately. I'm fairly certain of that.
There was, there was a bit of a dip in the share price. There was a bit of a dip around around the 19th of January.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, the surprising thing is it's strong. The share price throughout January has been stronger than it was in November and December.
Mm-hmm.
And at the risk of making this a financial podcast, I don't have any tips. I will not be investing in anything. I have no idea. I'm the guy that sold the cow for magic beans.
So I mean, it's an interesting one. So what I actually think they're going to do is they've invested far too much money in their virtual tabletop digital thing. They are rethinking D&D 1 at the moment. They are thinking, well, okay, if we can't do this, I totally agree with you. They're going to launch D&D 1 with its own, well, without an open gaming license. Basically, it's like you can use Fifth Ed. I don't think they're going to stop us using Fifth Ed. Not after everything that's happened, but I think they'll be the only people, apart from contracts given out for D&D 1. I don't think it'll be made open at all.
No.
And I think they're going to use big media to drive people to their virtual tabletop. They did this with local gaming stores. Local gaming stores were the way that Wizards of the Coast attracted people to play Dungeons and Dragons, to play Magic the Gathering. In more recent times, it was Critical Role that did that, and I believe Critical Role is probably going to move away from D&D. I believe season 4 will be maybe one of their own games. They've got their own publishing company.
Okay.
They
I know very little about them.
They are big enough now to either go with this orc or literally publish their own set of rules and say, well, we're playing our own set of rules. Why don't you buy our own set of rules? Why don't you play in Exandria or whatever game world that they're doing?
The trouble is, everyone's going to have their own set of rules. And come on, look, I already do not know the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, and I've been running games for the last 10 years. I'm not going to pretend to learn some new sets. What I'm going to ask you to do is roll some dice, and you'll look at your character sheet, and I'll just go, yeah, it's probably all right.
Yeah. I think that's what everybody does anyway. I mean,
it's what we do.
Yeah, I think Gordon, you're perfectly right. Critical Role was originally Pathfinder at their kitchen table. They mentioned it right at the very, very start. I mean, Critical Role, I think there's going to be many rivals to Wizards of the Coast, to be honest. They're a massive company. They have a lot of money behind them. It depends very much how they do it, but most definitely the marketplace has become a little fragmented. Ian has basically said the Matt Covell system. He has a great love for Dungeons and Dragons role playing. He is a great games designer. There's going to be a ton of things, and it shouldn't be seen as competition. It should actually be seen, if a positive comes out of this at all, it's a renaissance, really. I mean, it's not really a renaissance because we are in a great age of role playing anyway. But that age now, rather than being decapitated by the craziness of, I mean, we're only 1 month into the year. It seems like January's been a very long month.
It's been a very long month.
But it's caused a unity of many third-party publishers to come together. Just even the fact that they're talking to each other is a great thing.
I never would have found out about Kobold Press. And some other creators if I hadn't have been following the thing on Twitter. So I've used it just to find out about new creators, which has been a really positive thing. But yeah.
So, well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting times, and I think the message really, and this is kind of really bizarre. I hate to kind of want to say I'm ahead of the curve, but I had intentionally in the back of my mind, leading up the last 3 months of last year, I was thinking I kind of really want to try some new systems. I kind of want to run some new systems, not because I'm bored of fifth ed, but because there's a load of very good stuff out there, and it'll be nice to dip toes into them, to experiment with them, and everything else. And I think this has very much kind of put it into that zeitgeist, that collective consciousness, a reminder to everybody that we're passionate about fifth edition. We do like the game. We like our characters. You know, one of the strengths of fifth edition, or one of the things that makes people come back to it, is you're leveling up your character and you see that development. Um,
Yeah. A lot of other systems don't have
yeah.
don't have leveling up as the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although, and some systems, I'm sure Vampire the Masquerade has leveling up. I will fully admit, and I don't know if Elsa will agree here, but I fully admit I have not been keeping track of the number of sessions we've had, so the number of like story points, whatever it is we get for Vampire, because at some point we may be able to improve our characters, but
yeah,
I've been so involved, I've been so deep into that world that I don't keep track of it.
yeah. So yeah, so I actually think that through all this trauma and the stress that it has been for a lot of individuals, good times ahead. The fact that they've done this U-turn has meant that third-party publishers can get all of the works that they've currently got in production, things that are about to go to Kickstarter and stuff, without any kind of real issues, and then they can, if they want to, start looking at other systems and start cherry picking, kind of, oh, I quite fancy doing something for this system or that system. So I think good times ahead. I think perfectly right. And this just doesn't go for Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast. Big corporations want to please their shareholders. Now, sometimes there's a synergy between producing great product, which sells very well, that makes money, that means the company turns over good money and profits, which means the shareholders are happy. When that synergy happens, well, that's good. But sometimes they also have to look at like the darker side of corporate life, which is, well, we're not making any more money. What we're going to do is lay 1,000 people off. You know, to some people that is just numbers on a sheet. To being one of those 1,000 people being laid off, it's their livelihood, it's their
I
ability to
mean,
feed their family.
I've been in that position myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, no, I can appreciate that. It's and I've actually been in the position of being made redundant whilst also having to make others redundant at the same time.
It's a terrible situation to be in, and our hearts go out to everybody that is affected, sort of in this time of where it's hard for people.
I think Bill and Ted got it right when they just say be excellent to each
Yeah,
other.
be excellent to each other. Absolutely, it's kind of heartfelt, really. Um, but yeah, beware of corporations. I mean, us as gamers, especially our older ones that have grown up with Cyberpunk and Shadowrun and that. I mean, we knew this. Beware of corporations, um, because they've got their own best interests at heart first and foremost. Um, so I think Kristian is right. It's great news at the moment, but keep an eye out because you just never know what is going to happen next. Okay, well we are coming to quarter two, so it's almost time to say goodbye. I want to say a big thank you to Kristian for joining us, and I mean, I've certainly noticed a mass of difference. I don't know whether it's just the fact that we're covering such a emotive subject, but we've had substantially more people chatting today, and it's been great seeing all of your comments in there. So we very much appreciate that.
Yes,
Um,
thank you very much.
Let us know whether you prefer the YouTube live rather than a Twitch live. It's very, very useful to know for us. Let us know if there's any subjects you want us to cover. Um, and we'll be hopefully, if all things go well, here tomorrow night to talk about Feng Shui, to talk about our Fortunes Untold game, and to cover some other subjects as well. Um, Come and join the Discord channel, which you should be able to find in the link when I do this.
I've put it in. I've
Uh,
put it in. It's already there.
Thank you very much. And if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe and like, because we're only just starting off on our YouTube journey, and every single one of those means so much to us.
I think this is where we have to complain about the algorithm, like every other YouTuber out there.
I
The
don't even
algorithm.
I don't even know what that is, but I don't really care. We've got a great community. They're going to support us. We're going to look after them. We're all going to grow together. So
Yeah.
big thumbs up to you. As I always say, look after yourselves, look after everybody else, be kind to each other, and we will catch you hopefully same time tomorrow. Take care, everybody. See you later.
Bye, everyone.